All right, good morning. Welcome back to Daybreak on this third day of November. Like I told you earlier on, a very important day in the U.S. and the world as they go to the polls to elect their 45th or 46th president, depending on who wins that election. We will be crossing over to Washington, D.C. to speak to our team of two reporters who are there covering the U.S. election, but also bringing you the latest as far as what we know and what we find in course of the day. But also now it's time to take a look at some of the stories that are making headlines here in the country. And joining us in studio have like we spoke to just a few minutes ago, Gladys Wanga from Homa Bay County, Beatrice Alachi, the former Speaker of the Nairobi County Assembly, one Gladys Boss from Uasin Gishu, and Wanjeri Nderu, who is a communications consultant. And I want to begin with you, Wanjeri, because we didn't speak to you in the previous session. And we're waking up to the stories of BBI door slams shut on the front page of the Standard. Of course, they're talking about all systems go, led by Uhuru and Raila. MPs say no further changes to the report, but it appears that there were some concessions in as far as the NGCDF is concerned, saying that it will be incorporated in the constitutional referendum or rather amendment bill. We don't know whether that will happen. But then on the front page of the Daily Nation, you'll see Rift Valley counties to get more MPs if June referendum is passed. First of all, I want to just get a feel of what your opinion is on what is happening, because now it's clear that you're going to the next phase of implementing this BBI report. And as one was announced yesterday in a calendar released, it appears that by June 2021, all this will be water under the bridge, and the president might be assenting to the Constitution Amendment Bill. How do you feel about all this? Wanjeri, I can't hear you. It appears like you have muted your microphone. Are you able to unmute it?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead with your response.
Right. No, I'm saying I think we are losing direction as a country. Is this a priority for us? Is some words on a paper going to heal the nation? Is, you know, who is this for? For me, as I said, and I've been saying for the last at least 2 years, is that I believe this is, you know, a deal between two people who decided, you know what, you need to scratch my back so I can scratch your back later. It has nothing to do with us as a nation. It has nothing to do with us as a country. It absolutely has no, I don't even know what to say. You know, I'm thinking as myself as quote unquote a mama boga in the, you know, what is BBI? Who has even engaged with that document, including the people who are pushing for it, to understand how important it is for us or whether it is a priority for us right now? We have so much on the table as Kenyans. Do we need this at this moment? Do we need it?
But Wanjeri, you raised the question, who has even read it? I am assuming you've read it. And are there any key issues that you're opposed to? Because there are several of them, including the expansion of the cabinet, the questions of ensuring that we don't have divisive elections on some of the proposals for amendment and reforming the IABC, the devolution of more resources to the counties up to the tune of 35% of the latest audited accounts. Is there anything that you have an issue with specifically?
Yes, the BBI is a white lie, and I will tell you why. Let's just take for example, the issue of giving counties up to 35, or, you know, increasing it to 35%. Our constitution covers everything. They just are not implementing it. Our constitution says the counties, for instance, should get what, 15% minimum? So the president can wake up and decide, okay, guys, can we decide on doing 75%? The BBI is not solving a problem there. It is a white lie. And Kenyans, because what these people are banking on, and I've seen a joke going around, that, oh, you know what, we will let so and so big for us, and then they tell us, is because they bank on Kenyans not engaging with that document. In fact, that document, nobody engaged with it until quote unquote it was released. We had so much going down. We had so many links that was part of like that about what was in the document. Until these people received it, nobody knew what exactly was in that document. So even the people engaging with it in the time period that this document was released, have they genuinely engaged Kenyans? This is what we now.
Right, Wanjeri, we're having challenges hearing your audio. Maybe we can try to rectify, then get back with you. But in studio, Gladys Wanga, of course, I saw you at the Naivasha retreat, and you're speaking very positively and optimistically about the implementation of this report. And I'm just wondering, we'll shortly be looking at what that roadmap is looking like of ensuring that by the 7th of June 2021, the president is assenting to the constitutional referendum bill. But there are still those concerns, like what Wanjeri is saying, that this is not good for the country. It's just a deal between two people. How would you respond?
Thank you, Sam. And I hear what Wanjeri is saying, that this is a white lie, this is a deal between two people. But Sam, what is the basis for the BBI process? And what is the basis? Because Kenyans, we really forget. After every election, we have had issues. And what our leaders began as a process was to identify what issues there are that they think we are facing. And that came in that memorandum that they first issued. And they said there is an issue of ethnic antagonism and competition. Is that a problem? Yes, it is. Lack of national ethos, inclusivity is a big problem. Because some, you know, that every so often, after every election, we are, if a community wins or their person wins, those are the people who are included in the economic process. What about devolution? There was a problem with devolution, divisive elections, and so on and so forth, until you get to all the 9 issues. And if I look at the BBI report, I do not see what concerns specifically the two gentlemen we are talking about who are our leaders. I see what concerns the common Kenyan. If you look at the first and foremost amendment in that constitution, speaks to the issue of, if you look at 11A, in the constitution amendment bill, and that you have left every other part of the BBI, the economy and shared prosperity is a big issue. And we're talking about in the constitution now, you know, protection of certain various rights that ensure economic prosperity. Then you come to the issue that you're talking about of Mama Mboga, of young people. In the constitution now, you have, the constitution requires that the government, the state provides an infrastructure, for example, that supports the digital economy. It means that when we are engaging, for example, with digital lenders or these other people, young people who are inventing, we are dealing with them knowing that we have to protect that digital space. Because you're now talking about tax people who are doing digital work and so on and so forth. As you approach that, the constitution now would now require that the government is required as a right to those people, infrastructure to the digital economy. And this plus several other issues. So I think if we want to engage on the BBI report, let us engage on the BBI report and what it has for our people, rather than engage on broad, you know, statements such as the BBI is a white lie. You know, what exactly does that mean? What issue, as you're asking Wanjeri, in this BBI document, does she see as reversing the gains that our people already have? But if we talk about, we put our issues on the table, and we said we can resolve them through constitutional amendments 1, through legislative interventions 2, through policy interventions 3, and through administrative interventions 4. And those ones are all contained in the report. If you talk about the prompt payment issues, those are issues that affect young people. But unless we had the conversation and listened to what was happening in terms of pressing matters, we would not have prioritized some of those things.
Of course, Honorable Wanga, there are several concerns that are being raised, including last week when you spoke to one Gladys Boss, she was saying that some of these amendments or the legal proposals that are being made, we don't necessarily have to put them in the constitution. It can actually be some administrative changes. But
Sam, you know that,
we'll get to that.
Let me just make that point,
right,
which is that the BBI, this entire report, is segmented. The constitution amendments are only from page 57 to page 81. This is a 70-page report. All the other pages are talking about those other interventions that we are talking about.
Right, and of course there's a list of different legislative proposals. But Honorable Elachi, first of all, I haven't spoken to you in a long time, so I wouldn't know where your position lies. But let's listen to the leaders as they spoke in Naivasha yesterday, when specifically on the roadmap to implementing the BBI report and recommendations.
We are ready to proceed popularizing the report across the country. We have a schedule of activities that would culminate in a referendum.
I wish from today. After we finish this, they can announce that the document that can accompany the signature, we'll get it even like in Nairobi. It's just 2 days we get we get 1 million signatures.
Tuko nyuma ya BBI, Kenya moja, tunasonga mbele. We are hitting the road running.
We, over 300 members of parliament who have congregated here, have unanimously endorsed the document.
If you have issues that you think are not being addressed in the BBI, then bring them on. Or else, forever keep your peace and let's meet at the ballot.
Thank you. Thank you, Tosha. Okay. Thank you.
Of course, I have to admit that for the very first time, we've seen a president lining up with some members of parliament or members of parliament to address the media. I've never seen that. But Honorable Elachi, I don't know what your reaction is in as far as the proposed implementation. Is it too ambitious or it's actually achievable? Because you're saying that within a few days we'll have all the signatures, and you're actually saying that IBC will use 30 days to verify them. We're even coming up with a calendar, yet IBC is not even in the loop as yet.
Well, one, IBC should be in the loop. The day that we started talking about BBI, they should not tell me they are out of the loop, yet we did Punguza Mzigo and they were in the loop. So they should be in the loop on that one, Sam. It will be wrong.
They haven't been served with anything.
They
can't start any process.
They can't start until they are served the bill with the signatures. So I think they are waiting for the signatures. So we can't blame them on that. But then having said that, I think we started this process last year. And it's a process where people, again, we had the same doubts. Or is it for the two people? Is it? Now the bill is out. I think one of the things we have to ask ourselves from the steering committee, have they done as a job that we can look at and say, yes, it was worth going through the process? And also we need to ask ourselves, yes, 10 years after we've had the 2010 Constitution. Do we have a right now to relook at it and look at the issues? Yes, we have. And having said that, now we look at what the steering committee has given Kenyans. One, it has given us different amendments of what we need to do as per bills. Meaning, you're already looking at the same constitution people are complaining about. But in that, they have provided, again, new proposals that I think we need to look at. And for me, I'll be very biased. You know, if we are talking and we have gotten the 1/3 gender rule or the 2/3 gender rule in this country, then I'll keep quiet. But until I see that, and it is only in this process that I can see now we are headed to indeed achieve it, then as a woman, we cannot become, we should be the ones. Are you
confident we'll achieve the 2/3 gender rule in the National Assembly?
We have.
On the current proposals?
Oh yes, we have achieved now. And you'll see it. We achieved. By the time we were living, in fact, I went to Mombasa with Ngilu. They went to Naivasha. We sat there. We achieved. And that should be a celebration.
Explain to me, how so?
What do you mean, how so?
I mean, I just know that there will be 360 members of parliament.
Yes, then wait for the bill, Sam.
There will be multiple
Wait for the bill, and then you'll tell us, indeed, women of this country worked for that thing. Wait for the bill. And then you'll see.
Don't tell me.
No. You know, people.
I am lost.
Why are you lost?
Because
we achieved the 2/3 gender rule in Naivasha. And from there on, as women, we are fighting for this thing. We are fighting until we see everything work in parliament. So when you come to women, you will be finding a very different lot, because we'll be telling you, we need BBI, we have to campaign for BBI, we must get BBI. And the other thing is that not just the 2/3 gender rule. I think there were many things that were really pushed. And you'll find that members of parliament had, yes, their agenda, Senate had its agenda, all of it now incorporated. Then we have to say it's a document that we can move together to ensure we change some of the things that we've been seeing. And for me, the most challenging part, and anyway, we remember we had these seats, the seats that people are saying, oh, Central Province are the ones who have taken the lion's share. But you see, after everything are now bringing it out, why the need of having those seats, you realize it is where we have huge populations that we need again to relook at. Because you find that in some part of the country, let's say Nairobi, you find that in Nairobi we have huge population, but the same member of parliament is taking care of nearly 160,000 people. That is just voters, yet the population there is so high. Right. So for us again, in Nairobi. We cannot throw away this baby because what? We have been struggling to see how we give services to our people. How do we ensure a Mheshimiwa is able to take care of his constituency and a constituency where he can be able to meet and see his people.
Right, I still have questions for the two of you, specifically on the gender role, and secondly, I'll raise a question with you on how you're going to elect these 70 extra members of parliament in some of the counties. But Gladys Boss, I'm not sure I saw you in Naivasha. Were you invited? Why didn't you go?
I wasn't invited.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe you should ask the president and Raila Odinga. They are the owners of BBI.
And when you look at the implementation matrix or the roadmap that is being given, to the extent that, let me just take a look at that, as of now, being the 3rd of November, there's a process that has already begun, that is public outreach and signature collection, and then there is a preparation and submission of signatures and bill to IEBC that should conclude on 9th of December, and then IEBC will verify the signatures between 10th of December to January 10th next year, and then IEBC submits bill to county assemblies starting 11th of January 2021. Is this a possibility? And I know you've been having concerns, and Deputy President William Ruto has been saying that it's possible to come up with an uncontested bill. How have you reconciled your views and the roadmap being given?
I think I'm still at the place where the head of state did inform us in Bomas that it is an opportunity now for Kenyans to read the document, give their views on it, and have a conversation about it. And that's what he told us, to read it. And that's exactly what we are doing at the moment. To jump the gun and give us timelines. First of all, the Naivasha meeting is not permitted to give any timelines. The timelines must come from the IEBC. All they have to do is give the bill to IEBC. Once if they are collecting signatures, give the signatures to IEBC. IEBC will then kickstart. I have kickstart the process. I have worked in IEBC. It is very technical and legal to develop timelines. So any timelines that have come out of Naivasha should be ignored by Kenyans, because that is not the legal manner in which to do it. And before we even talk about going to the referendum, it is important for us to have a conversation on this particular report. First of all, I want to tell Kenyans that report is convoluted, badly written, in the wrong format, to the extent that it's an impossible document for ordinary citizens to read. If I, being a lawyer, tried to read it and I had to split it into 7 different parts for me to understand it, you will look that it was written by several different people, because the format and the font is not even similar. It's not one document. And when I say that, let us look at the questions I am asking about BBI. When they tell me that they're going to have a prompt payment act, paying people promptly is normal operational business. Whatever they have put in the prompt payment act are terms and conditions that are normally at the back of an invoice. You do not need to legislate it, and you do not need to have a constitutional amendment in order to pay people. Or are you telling me that the government intends, normally when people supply goods, not to pay, therefore there has to be a legislation to make them pay? When you tell me about a tax holiday for young people, already the way our tax laws are designed is you get a tax holiday until such time as to make a profit. So are you telling me that one of those young ladies who got the COVID money, remember the ones who got the tenders for COVID? One of them is said to have made 30 billion shillings, and the company had only been in operation for 4 months.
30 billion shillings?
So do you give someone who has made 30 billion shillings a tax holiday? Really?
Gladys Boss,
what is the tax holiday is intended to achieve?
Gladys Boss, I'm not sure about, just a moment, I'm not sure about the 30 billion shilling lady. Maybe you can give us more details, because the last I checked KEMSA had given a tender of up to 7 billion shillings.
There was, I don't have it now, but I do have it in writing. There was a script of someone who had received that. And I think those are facts that you can even verify yourselves.
No, we will verify, but I think the most expensive tender was about 900 million shillings, but all the same, carry on.
It was before the committee, the parliamentary committee. When you tell me that BBI intends to give a grace period of 4 years for any graduate to start paying their higher education loans debt, I don't think the problem, what mischief are you trying to cure? Because the challenge that we have at the moment is not because those young graduates have refused to pay the loan. It is because they don't have jobs. That is why they don't pay. So the logical thing is create employment so that they can pay. And I know that if any graduate gets a job today, they will start paying tomorrow. They don't have issues about paying. Or are you telling us that it's now guaranteed that no graduate will get a job for 4 years for sure? So the job is we should be dealing, if this is resolving the challenges of Kenyans, if BBI is resolving our challenges, then you should be giving me a strategy on how you are going to create employment. So in a nutshell, Sam, we have two BBIs. We have the Mwananchi BBI and we have the Mwanasiasa BBI. The citizens BBI and the politicians BBI. The citizens BBI, which they are trying to sell to us, is the one that is attached to goodies. It's the one that's telling us there'll be prompt payment by government. They're the ones telling us there's going to be the Higher Education Loans Board giving a grace period. There's going to be a tax holiday. There's the Micro and Small Enterprises Act is going to be amended. That is what they're trying to sell to the public.
Right.
And none of those require constitutional amendments. It just requires a simple majority in Parliament for those amendments to those legislation to be done. So they are
all right, Honorable Boss.
Require a constitutional amendment. And let me just
allow me to just a moment, Honorable Boss. No, just a moment. Allow me to listen to Wanjeri because she's been pretty quiet. And Wanjeri, I know you're opposed to all this. You're saying it's a deal between two people and you're calling it a white lie. But now we have a document that we have to debate and even make a decision on. And that is why I'm asking the question, with all the timelines given, of course, if you had to reconcile the timelines given by the team led by Senator Orengo, who spoke on behalf of the team that was in Naivasha yesterday, if you had to compare that against the timelines as per the Constitution, you'll see that there is a requirement that once the 1 million signatures have been submitted to IEBC, they have to be verified, and then the bill is tabled before the county assemblies, who have up to 3 months, actually 90 days, to debate it, and at least 24 have to pass it for it to proceed to the next level. So you see 3 months versus 30 days being stipulated by the team in Naivasha. Then Parliament is to consider the bill, both the Senate and the National Assembly, and we should either house not pass it, then there has to be a referendum. But if it still touches on certain clauses that are protected by the Constitution, it will still have to go to the referendum. But the Constitution does not provide a timeline for the National Assembly. We're being told that it has to take 45 days. Do you think these are achievable given the circumstances that we are in? And is it good for the constitutionalism of the country to limit those timelines?
First of all, they do not even have the constitutional power to put those timelines just because they had a meeting in a hotel somewhere in Naivasha. I'm 100% in agreement with Gladys. And what we are seeing really is politicians using our systems for their own self-gain. I don't know, is my response clear?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right.
If you're not, I'll tell you.
I think Gladys explained that much earlier, and I am with her on that. IBC are the people who are supposed to give us those timelines, not people meeting in a hotel somewhere in Naivasha and deciding what it is that we should do with this document. Number two, they have not even given Kenyans time to engage with that document. People don't know what's in it. We are only finding out what is in it because they're telling us through you, the media, you know, but we ask that time. It is in such a way that even the can go with it. If I'm also struggling with I'm an activist and a communication consultant, but I'm looking at this document and it's giving me a headache. Hardly. What is it that the Constitution has not covered?
Right.
Some of this are talking about post-election violence, historical injustices, also what Gladys is saying about state and timelines. All that, for instance, if you look at the 2 GRC reports that we had that have not implemented, that we have to implement this one. The GRC report was very clear about what needs to be done, the investigation and what needs to be done. Not implemented.
Well, Wanjeri, Your voice is still breaking. I don't know what we do with that.
Maybe if I speak slow.
Yes, try that.
We have the TJRC report. Justice and Reconciliation report. They did not implement. They, in fact, just shoved it on a shelf, and it is just gaining dust. We had the Kriegler report on post-election violence. They did not implement that. We had the Ndongo report on land and graft. They did not implement that. Now, how is that document that has been signed and decided upon by a group of characters and decided that?
Well, Wanjeri, I think we have to rectify that first, because again we are losing you. Let's listen to the Deputy President who spoke yesterday. He was in his current office, and he spoke about the non-contested referendum. Listen.
There could be those who are looking for how to make money from the referendum. I want to advise them there are many tenders they can apply so that they can make money. Let them leave this constitutional making as a Kenyan process. There are those who think they can use this for politics. Let them wait for 2022. We will all do politics. For now, let us find a mechanism for this constitutional moment so that and bring all Kenyans together.
So you can see there's, I mean, everyone wants everyone together, but the formula remains different. First of all, Gladys Wanga, you were in Naivasha. Why was not everyone there? Boss wasn't there. She wasn't invited.
Thank you, Sam. The question of who was there and who was not there, let me say, the message is very clear. Because of COVID rules, this training or taking us through the BBI document for members of parliament is being done in 2 batches. The people who were there yesterday were the first batch. There's going to be another batch in the coming weeks. So I think when boss gets the invitation, she should plan to attend, because there are also invitations that are usually made and people refuse to attend. One such invitation was by the BBI. This BBI process has been on for 2 years, Sam. This BBI task force, which was its original form, went to 290 constituencies seeking views of Kenyans. Where do you think the problem is on the basis of these 9 points?
But before Karen, let me take you back to the invitations. How many were you at the retreat? We were almost 300 members of parliament, members of the National Assembly and the Senate. So almost 300, and the total number of senators and members of the National Assembly are 416.
Yeah.
So let's say about 100 MPs were not invited.
It was about half-half. So there's going to be another half coming, Sam. And that's not the biggest issue.
Wait,
you know, Sam, let us not split hairs. And this is what we are allowing, even on this show. We are not yet discussing the issues.
We will.
We are splitting hairs about...
But there's a question about a member of parliament in the name of Gladys Boss. Yesterday we had Caleb Kositanyi, who said that he had not been invited, but he was told by the majority leader that there will be a second phase, like what you're saying. But I'm just wondering, Kanini Kega, the chairman of the trade committee, said that the members of parliament in Naivasha are 350. You put your figures at almost 300, but the total number of legislators are 416. I'm just wondering, what is the criteria to determine who comes to phase 1 and who comes to phase 2?
I think that is a question, because even I received an invitation from the majority leader. They could even have just put the names in a basket and picked at random. Surely, the fact remains that people will be, what we were doing in Naivasha was being taken through the document. When they are invited to go, they should go. And this is the point I was making, which is that the BBI team went round the 290 constituencies and asked the public to give their views. This was before November last year, when the first report was issued.
Okay.
When the first report was issued at Bomas of Kenya. After the first report was issued, we said, let the public continue to engage further. We went around all the regions, and then these guys sat at now the steering committee. They now sat at LICO Regency and at KICC. They also said, do you have any issues? I want to ask Gladys Boss to her face. Did she one day, even William Ruto, did they one day appear to give their views at this fora? All of these things, you know, and some.
Yeah.
I have heard, and Gladys Boss will not interrupt me. She will not interrupt me because I did not interrupt her when she was speaking. She will give that answer when she's answering her, when she's given her time to speak. But let me say, the issues that Gladys Boss has raised, you know, whether about prompt payment or about tax holidays, She's not saying they're bad things. She's only saying, should they be done through the BBI? But the BBI was taking views from Kenyans. Young people were saying, when we do tenders with government, we are not paid on time. Then the BBI, their job was to say, okay, what solution can be found to this matter? And even the issues Wanjeri is raising. Kenyans are saying, okay, we have the TJRC report, it has not been implemented, or we have the other reports which have not been implemented. The job of the BBI task force was to say, how best can this be implemented? And I want to say this. When you look at the BBI constitutional amendment, when you look at the issue of Article 43 rights, we put them in the 2010 Constitution, but there was no mechanism for pushing for their implementation. And this is the right to food, right to water, right to health. And now there is a mechanism in the amendment for implementation of these rights to those very Kenyans we are talking about. Right. So I think if we have a problem with the issues raised in the BBI, let us say it is problem A, problem B, problem C. But let us not just split hairs and, you know, and call people names just for participating in a process that was open to all Kenyans. If you did not participate in that process, where is the guarantee? Where is the show of goodwill?
Okay.
You know, so I think
let's take the fair challenge to Honorable Boss, because Honorable Wanga here is saying that you never participated in those hearings, and therefore...
Sammy, let us not make it...
No, sure, I'll get back to you. But so, do you think you're justified to be criticizing a document that you refused an invitation or an opportunity to have a say on? And if you're invited for the phase 2 of a retreat, whether it's in Naivasha or elsewhere, will you attend?
I think, Sam, you cut me short before I finished explaining what I was explaining, so I'll just pick up from...
No, please respond to the question I raised with you so that we can make progress. Honorable Boss, please respond to the specific question about whether you have the right to criticize a document that you refuse to take part in as alleged by Gladys Wanga, and secondly, if you're called for a second retreat, will you attend?
By the way, I am a Kenyan, and I am entitled to criticize any document that is being given to the public and that will be imposed on us as Kenyan citizens. The question. I can criticize any document.
Did you present your views?
Any legislation that comes
Did you present your views? Did your leader, William Ruto, present any views? That's the question. Because hypocrisy must be called out for what it is.
Sam, I don't think you invited me to Citizen TV to be cross-examined by Gladys Wanga. I am raising very important, pertinent points relating to a document that's going to affect Kenyans.
Did you present your views?
Honorable Boss, I'll allow her to have her response. I mean, Honorable Boss, just make your response.
Let her make a response, not go around the issue.
Please, Honorable Wanga, let's...
It's a fundamental issue.
Respond to the question. Honorable Boss.
I am giving my criticism as a Kenyan, and I'm entitled to do that. When I am invited for the next meeting, whenever it will be, again, I am entitled to look at the agenda and decide whether I am going to be able to be useful in the meeting or not. So I choose which meetings to attend depending on whether I can add value. If I think that it doesn't add any value, then I will not attend it. And in fact, the most important people to speak to is not me. It is the ordinary citizen on the ground that they should be talking to. It is Kenyans who can say what they want in that act or not. So, in a nutshell, I have said that BBI has some goodies and legislation that they presented to Kenyans in order to get a buy-in from the Mwananchi. But at the end of the day, the BBI is a document to create a prime minister position, deputy prime ministers, cabinet secretaries as members of parliament, and that is all it is. All these other amendments that they have put that seem to help the Mwananchi ostensibly are actually intended to just help escort the main agenda, which is to create 5 positions for 5 top Kenyans and no one else. I want BBI to be telling me how they can be able to create 1 million jobs for the young Kenyans, not create 3 jobs for 3 persons in Kenya or 5 persons in Kenya.
Okay, Honorable Boss, I hear you.
Let the BBI report tell me that.
I hear you, and I'll get back to you. Sorry, Honorable Boss, I need to take it to Honorable Speaker Beatrice Zalachi here, and you've been watching. And
Sam, Sam, I had said that I could only be on the show until in the next...
No, she has to wait. She has to wait, Sam.
So I've hardly had a chance to speak.
She has to wait, Sam.
I will be leaving
there are a few questions I need to ask.
Honorable Boss, if you are to be fair, just allow me, I'll get back to you shortly. But let's hear Honorable Elachi, because she's being quiet and you're witness to that. But Honorable Speaker, so now there are all these contestations, and of course the voices of those that are saying we need to reopen the document. There is word that there's a possibility that the CDF issue will be put into the constitution. Honorable Wanga can confirm, but also telling me that there are certain concessions on how to achieve the two-third gender rule, as well as the 70 new positions, or rather multiple member constituencies, the seats themselves. So when you hear all these contestations, what are you supposed to do? Yet as Kenyans, we need to move forward, having agreed on the different ways of moving forward.
First of all, we will have to stop hypocrisy. I like people when they are truthful. When I look at my sister, Gladys, was the first one to say she's bringing in a bill to remove the women's seats at that time. Mm-hmm. And therefore, there was a purpose why she was saying that. She needed to have told Kenyans, why my thinking at that time was removing the women's seats because they have no value at that time in Parliament, and they need to move now to Senate, which they have moved to Senate. Mm-hmm. I think that is one thing she should be saying. In my bill that I was proposing at that time, I think I have seen the thing move to Senate, and therefore it is better in the Senate. And how do we now come back to the National Assembly and ensure, if we need to get the two-thirds? And one of the proposals we should put on the table as women is that if you want to be in the National Assembly, then you have to go and vie in the constituency. Mm-hmm. So that these two-thirds we are talking about, because it will be a top-up after the elections, is that any woman who have vied in a constituency and your votes are higher, then that is how we have, so that we get out of the issue of where people say you are waiting for free seats, you are waiting for this. That is one. Number two, the issue of tax. I think my sister was once, just a minute, Sam.
Please clarify on how 70 seats are going to be allocated. I've seen the schedule in the counties.
The issue of 70 seats, we are not there. We are saying the constitution is very clear that that National Assembly, and we are just carrying 177 of the counties and bringing on this side, but with a different formula that you must vie. And even in the county assemblies, this time they must vie, not waiting to see a top-up list of people from all over. No, vie, and so Kenyans will know you vied and this is what you got. And therefore, from there now, the parties will be able to know who is now getting into the National Assembly through, first of all, you have attempted to, not just attempted, you have vied. And in fact, you have vied and gone to the last, if we are not careful. So women must prepare to say, you are getting into a party to vie, so not to be given.
That these 70 seats will go to the disadvantaged gender?
The 70 seats, definitely women will be in, but they are going to the multiple density population, and definitely PWDs have to be there. Young people must be there. But we are saying as women, to prove that we were not going for free seats again, you have to vie. And don't tell me now we have to bring back county seats in the National Assembly. No, county seats have to be in the Senate, because that is where you have an opportunity to really fight for a county, to really push for county development. Here, anyone who wants to be in the National Assembly, you have to go to a constituency seat, vie there, and get that
what
constituency
you're saying, will
seat.
it be put as part of the bill, or how will that be done?
Of course, the bill will be very clear that this assembly, I've said you carry 177 as it is. The same formula, you bring it here. But now, how the bill reads for you to get there is, it has to be very clear. So that we don't find just people, you are sitting at home and you've come from all the way London and you have entered into Parliament. No.
In a short answer, is that consistent with what was discussed at Naivasha retreat?
Maybe if you give me time,
when
there is time, I can explain, you know, the discussions in Naivasha and other issues. But if you say in a short answer, I might not be able to explain it well, and it might be misconstrued.
Okay, I'll get back because the Honorable Boss needs to leave. But Wanjeri, so when you hear this conversation, especially on how to achieve the gender role, well, we've taken note of your opposition to all this. But then again, there's a constitutional requirement that two-third gender rule has to be adhered to. Do you think that formula, as explained by Beatrice Alachi, would lead to us?
The formula has, read the Constitution, Article 177, Sam. You get the formula.
I'll actually read it, but Wanjeri, do you think it
so Wanjeri has to read and read to Kenyans.
Do you think it
177?
Am I being directed on how to answer?
No, not directed, Wanjeri. Just read, so because you are there, you can have the constitution.
I want all of us to come down so that we listen to each other. Wanjeri, just respond to the question. Do you think what is being proposed will help us achieve the gender role?
I have heard Madam Elachi talking about hypocrisy. And I want to emphasize with her that hypocrisy is not what Kenyans need right now. The Constitution is not clear on the if they ignore that, if they refuse to what the Constitution is saying, what is a document that is started upon by two individuals with a group of people? How is it going to solve issues? That is hypocrisy. What is there in this document that has not been covered by the Constitution? That they're giving us new, nothing. It's about giving political positions to individuals. This is about retaining power at all. In fact, BBI has more than what elections usually. Already,
Wanjeri, again, I'm so sorry. I can't hear you. We can barely hear you. There's a big problem with your audio. If it's possible, maybe you could restart your device and see if that works better, because we need to really get your views. They're important for this conversation. But Honorable Boss, there was that proposal that you had presented before before Parliament in as far as amending the Constitution to achieve the two-thirds gender rule. When you compare that with what is being proposed in the Constitution, as well as what Beatrice Elachi here is proposing, because she's talking about Article 177 that talks about nominating the seats that are necessary to ensure that county assemblies are compliant with the two-thirds gender rule, and that being now transferred to the constituencies. It's still not clear in as far as what is on written paper, but would that help us achieve this long fought for rule?
Sam, first I would like to correct, and I'm very shocked and surprised that Beatrice Elachi dares comment on my constitutional amendment bill that is pending in Parliament and coming up this week without having read it. In my constitutional amendment bill, I am not scrapping the women, I'm not proposing scrapping of the women representative seats. I am proposing the scrapping of the seats as designed now, and then I am increasing, for example, instead of Uasin Gishu County having one woman representative with the electoral unit being the entire county, I am proposing 3 women representatives with the electoral unit being 2 constituencies. So Beatrice Elachi, go to the Parliament website and read my constitutional amendment bill. Then you will realize that you have the wrong facts with you.
But you have scrapped and taken it to constituencies.
Why am I still on the point of women? If you look at the current constitution, we have 53 guaranteed women seats in the National Assembly. That is 47 women representatives plus 6 nominated women, bringing it to 47. If you look at the BBI report, the BBI constitutional amendment report, or whatever it is, guarantees only 35 seats. Of the 70 nominated seats that they are proposing, usually you produce a zebra list, male, female, in alternate, which means the maximum women we can have guaranteed is only 35. So I want them to explain to me in which language that is safeguarding the gains of women. 53 guaranteed seats versus 35 guaranteed seats. That is basic math. Go and read them. They even seem not to have read their own BBI report. And then the other question that is very important is the BBI report has what they call suggested timeline for implementation of any of the statutes in it. They are not, it's not statutory, but remember the same proponents of BBI, His Excellency the President leading the pack, has said he's proposing constitutional amendments. Remember, he's the same president who has disobeyed the current constitution severally. He has refused to dissolve parliament as required by Article 261. He has refused to appoint judges contrary to the constitution. He has so what guarantee do we have that they will even obey the constitution that they want to amend? So why is it, so the track record speaks for itself, and these are facts. And my position remains the same. Of the 12 pieces of legislation that are suggested under the BBI report and prepared by the steering committee is, first of all, the wrong way of going about legislative making. You don't put 50 people in a room and then they decide that they want to amend certain pieces of legislation. That must usually emanate on a petition or brought through Parliament. Parliament has a process. Members of Parliament are paid to process legislative making, and which can be done. And you do not require
Honorable Boss,
or a constitutional amendment to do so.
If the law allows any person, any Kenyan to propose legislation, what is wrong with the BBI coming up with proposals that will all the same come before Parliament, be subjected to a committee of Parliament, go to public participation? What's wrong with all that?
Remember, when we got the 2010 Constitution, it was after 20 years of clamoring. We had Sabasaba riots, we had people going to court, we had people being detained without trial. There was a clamor, there was a movement in order to request for constitutional change making. It came from the ground. It did not come from two persons on the steps of a runway house. So
Sam,
I think
it will be
two people.
Okay, Honorable Boss.
Sam, let me just say something.
There's a challenge.
Sam, let me say something.
Okay.
To force anything down our throats. You're supposed to implement what the Kenyans want. That is what you're supposed to do as head of state. Because
Sam,
our constitution
can I say
says sovereignty belongs to the people of Kenya.
Gladys leaves.
Honorable Boss, there are two challenges
yes,
from...
on that, I think...
just a moment.
Allow me to leave.
Could you just listen to the reply from your co-panelist?
My one reply is that my sister forgets that there was a clamor that people woke up in the morning and find themselves at Uhuru Park to bring in a people's president. And we want to assume that that was not an issue to make us go back and think why we need to build our bridges and to come together. There was a clamor that people felt. Two tribes have taken over Kenya. Where are the other tribes? She needs to be thinking that very seriously. And that is what brought us to this matter. There was a clamor that we have decided to make Kenya for a few people and removed of what Kibaki had brought in with the Grand Coalition government. That is why we find ourselves here. But I'm happy she has agreed that indeed she changed the issue of the women reps and brought in the constituencies. And therefore we are saying, yes, we have to go into constituencies as she agrees with her bill.
So
well, unfortunately, Honorable Boss has left the conversation. She left the group, but there's something I wanted to clarify on the gender guarantee before we can listen to Wanjeri. Just go ahead and tell us what the concession was at the Naivasha retreat on how to achieve this gender rule, as well as the specifics on the 70 constituencies, who becomes what after the election.
So first of all, let me say this, that both Boss and her boss, William Ruto, refused to engage with the BBI process. And when that question was put to them, they are filibustering. And now they have issue. I do not know where the issue is. Where is the issue in the BBI? I've been trying to listen to see where is the problem. But I see Boss complaining about 50 people in a room. These people went round 290 constituencies, went round all our 47 counties, and to the 8 regions, and picked issues that Kenyans were raising, and then proposed solutions, and categorized those solutions into 4. They categorized them, as we had said earlier, into administrative policy, constitutional amendments, and legislation. And now we have bills before us. And as Sam, you put it correctly, those suggested bills can usually come from any process and from any Kenyan. And the ones that are before us are very important towards pushing Kenyans to where they want to be. So I think Boss and her people and her boss, William Ruto, they lost the moral authority to lecture Kenyans about BBI, what is in it and what is not in it, because they did not in the first place give their views. And I think if there is a Kenyan process that is going on, it was important for them to give their views. And they cannot say they were left out of the BBI process, because as we saw at Bomas, the president challenged his deputy and said, I have worked with you through this process. And he did not give anything to the contrary, which means he was part of this process, but he chose to ignore it. Now he's telling us, open up the The process has been open for 2 years. Now you wonder, where do we want to go? And if you hear, I've been trying to listen to any specific issue that we can respond to that has not been addressed by the report. I have not heard anything so far. Let me come to the gender principle.
Yes.
Some, if you read the report, and I'm even just looking at page 7 of it, the issue of women and girls is addressed thoroughly in that report. It says that to solve the issue of exclusion of gender, they are proposing adoption of a political representation system to implement the 2/3 gender rule in parliament and ensure that the executive structure of the country follows the 2/3 gender rule. So this matter is in the report. Where we didn't see it translated clearly is in the constitutional amendment amended bill.
Right.
And this is why we are saying that when in our conversations, we have been saying this matter is in the report, but it is not, there is no nexus between what is in the report and the constitutional amendment bill. And that is where we have been within our channels and everywhere raising that particular issue. And it has been admitted that this matter is in the report and therefore should find its nexus in the constitutional amendment bill. It only made its way into this report.
So how did that be done?
It only made its way into this report because you know, this is the report. Then there is the constitutional amendment bill that will be taken to the IEBC. When it is taken to the IEBC, matters that are in the report should have their nexus. And this is why Honorable Elachi was saying, for 50 years plus, women have been clamoring, Kenyans have been clamoring for attainment of the 1/3 gender rule, 2/3 gender rule in parliament. For the first time ever, the BBI is going to present us with that solution because it is a matter that is captured in this report.
I'm asking the details about that promise, because when you read the report, you see that every political party will have to ensure that at least 1/3 of the party list, as far as the nomination or the primaries, they have to be women or men, depending on the gender that is disadvantaged. But how will you achieve it now in the constitution that was agreed in Naivasha?
When the constitution, there's nothing that was agreed in Naivasha. In Naivasha, we were being taken through this report. And as soon as the report was released, we have been reading it and looking at the issues that are within the report, were presented and did not have a nexus. When the Constitution Amendment Bill is produced, women will have the 1/3 gender rule attained in Parliament, as is indicated in this report.
I'll get back to you, but Wanjeri now is joining us via way of phone. I hope that this time we can hear you. Unfortunately, we've been disadvantaged this morning to hear your submissions, but what specifics do you have to add to the conversation around the gender rule and what is being said? Of course, Honorable Wanga says that the constitutional bill, amendment bill will have all these details. What are your thoughts and what do you think we should do?
Am I clear now?
Yes, you're very clear.
Apologies for earlier. Maybe I should answer your previous questions, but I think I found myself feeling like I'm in some political showbiz, and that's very unfortunate because what we need to do is discuss issues. And what I am going to say very clearly is that I have seen and I have heard a lot of hypocrisy today morning. We cannot claim that the BBI is an answer to our problems when the Constitution is very clear on issues. Our panelists are not telling us what the Constitution has not given us that the BBI is going to give us that is going to resolve the issues we have. The 2/3 gender rule, as an example, has completely been ignored, but it is in the Constitution. So how is a report going to do that? If we ignored, as I had said earlier, the TJRC report on truth and justice and the Truth and Justice Reconciliation report. We ignored the Krigler report on post-election violence. We ignored the Ndongo report on land and graft. And we are here saying there's a document, a new document, that is so flowery and so nice for the common Mwananchi that it is going to solve our problems. Nothing in that report is going to solve the issues Kenyans are going through right now.
Right.
We find ourselves as Kenyans in a situation where it's about power, it's about how much money can we steal at what time. It is about, now for instance, how much money has gone down in
so how would you suggest we do it? Because I mean, this process looks like it will get to its end.
Implement the Constitution. Tekeleza Katiba. It is the only solution. But they do not want to tekeleza Katiba because it does not work for them and their greed.
Wanjeri, a question here. Just a question here. We know that there's a case in court. Of course, Honorable Bose earlier on raised the question that the president has failed to dissolve parliament. We know there's a legal challenge in court. A 5-judge bench has already been constituted. You're saying that to implement the constitution, there has been attempts in parliament. I think it's 4 times. There are other bills pending on the floor of the house. So it would appear like this process of BBI would get closer to implementing this constitutional threshold. How else would you want it done?
Actually, the BBI is not for purposes of implementing the Constitution. The BBI process.
I'm talking about the two-thirds gender rule.
Killing the Constitution. Okay? Everything in our Constitution can work if the political will is there. But the political will is lacking. That's number 1. Number 2, it is about people's positions in power and how much resources they can access when they get into power. It has nothing to do with
that's okay, Wanjeri.
Hypocrisy.
Wanjeri, my question is very... Wanjeri, we need to make progress on this. My question is very specific. The gender rule. There's the proposal that IEBC ensures that every political party has at least 1/3 of the nominations being from either gender. And now we are told that there is some talk that has been going on that will be incorporated in the BBI report on how to ensure two-thirds gender rule. One, Beatrice Elachi tells us that the provision in the county assemblies may be lifted and copied for the constituencies. How differently would you propose you go ahead the two-thirds gender rule, implement it and forget about it as we move on as a country?
It goes back again, I repeat, and there is no other answer other than what I am saying. There is nothing that report is giving us that is not in the Constitution. They have refused to implement the Constitution. They are giving us what Gladys is calling goodies, so that they are dangling carrots in front of us. If they implement the Constitution, the issue of the two-thirds gender rule is resolved. But they do not want to do that. Then they put that in a document and say, oh, you know what, now that we have been disobeying and disregarding the Constitution, perhaps we can have a conversation if you decide to adopt the BBI. But it is still hypocrisy. The same things they're talking about is what they're giving Kenyans.
All right, Wanjeri.
Lies,
Wanjeri, we need to begin winding up because we are running out of time, and I want to take the closing remarks. I want to begin with you, Honorable. Yes, it's actually 5 minutes to 8 o'clock. So, Honorable Wanga, I don't know what concerns you have with what Wanjeri is saying.
Is advancing maybe accept narrative for civil society, some civil society groups about this Tekeleza Katiba. But let me ask Wanjeri, if she's been following the women's movement, for example, in trying to tekeleza the two-thirds, there was no mechanism in the 2010 Constitution on how to do it. That is why the Parliament has been trying to effect a constitutional amendment. Since the last Parliament, we have had Duale 1, Duale 2, Duale 3, Duale 4. Those were all constitutional amendment bills trying to put in a mechanism, a formula for implementation of the two-thirds gender rule. It's not enough to just have the principle. It is important to also have how to do it. And this is what the BBI is doing. So if you see that there's nothing the BBI is doing as far as that is concerned, then you are already on a script. And that script says, oh, civil society, we're going to say Tekeleza Katiba. Tekeleza Katiba, yet in the two-thirds gender rule, for example, there was no formula for how to do it. And now BBI is going to provide the formula. So is BBI still bad? Come to Article 43 rights. There are rights to water, rights to food, rights to health, right to shelter that has been provided in the Constitution. There was never a mechanism. Right now, there will be, if you look at the financial parts of the Constitution, there is a requirement that budget for these ones are prioritized for Article 43 rights. That the President in his State of the Union, State of the Nation address has to speak to how he has attained the Article 43 rights. And these are the things that concern common Mwananchi. My people in Homa Bay are concerned about water. They are concerned about health. They are concerned about shelter. And if the Constitution can require that, then they want it. So this civil society threat, you know, some civil society groups pushing this thing of Tekeleza Katiba, yet they are refusing. In fact, Wanjeri is an intelligent person. She is saying she has not read this BBI, she cannot understand it. Yet, she is one of the most intelligent people I know. It means she is refusing to read this just because she wants to advance an agenda.
Let's share the remaining 30 seconds with the Honorable Speaker
here. I think one of the things we need to agree that...
Let's close on this because, yes, we are told that the gender clarity will be incorporated in the referendum bill. And if that is possible, then why are we not entertaining the divergent views coming from the likes of the Deputy President and his team? And maybe they might actually improve the document and lead it to non-contested referendum.
Well, you see, Sam, one of the things I want to be very clear is that nobody has refused. What we are saying as women is just one agenda. And I have said when I started, I'll be very biased, that the issues of women must be carried as we have agreed. As I say, Article 177 will resolve this problem, and therefore the 70 seats we are talking about will be a plus also to women. So let us not mix them, because we are saying this parliament cannot start until you have the 1/3. That is why it is in court, that is why it is all over. But having said that, I think there are many critical issues we need to ask ourselves. Yes, we come in and we look at, first, if you are really fighting for women issues and girls issues, the issue of menstrual is very clear now, which has never been in any. Now, I see Wanjeri talks about the Ndungu report. I thought when we were doing the 2010 constitution, we brought in the chapter for land. And it was to resolve the issues that were in the Ndungu report. Now, the civil society should tell us, have they done an audit to see whether the land chapter has worked for Kenyans or it has disadvantaged Kenyans? Then you come and now say, we are not working on the constitution. Every time we come on issues, we bring up the TGRC report. But nobody comes and tells us, I have audited and we have seen some of the issues have been done, some have been left out. Why? We bring in the TGRC report, and that's why I'm saying because of hypocrisy, because you know the name of the president is in. So you bring in because you want to fill those names. That is not solving a problem in Kenya. That is now bringing more problems. If you want to resolve the problem, is look internally on what is the issue and bring it out and face the government and say, we have not resolved this. The issue of the Kriegler report, we are saying divisive politics. Yes, we have. And now again, BBI is reminding us that, look, there was a Kriegler report. You have not done it right. You need to go back on the drawing board. And therefore, can we use the BBI to go back to the Kriegler report and do what is rightful? But all in all, we have to agree that the BBI is going to support this country to move. In the transition that we are moving in, we need to be together. We need to be one country. We need to agree that this thing of one takes it all has to stop for this country to move. And we need to agree devolution is our pillar, and therefore ensure most of the work we are talking about should be of the pillar of devolution in this country.
Speaker Elachi,
yes,
thank you so much for your submissions. Unfortunately, there are those that are saying that it's now no longer winner takes all, it's winner takes everything. There are those conversations, the question that I asked you about, if it's possible to incorporate the gender question, then why would it be opened?
Can I respond to that?
Can we wait for the bill?
Are you able to do that in 15 seconds?
In 15 seconds, let me say, the gender question is addressed conclusively in the 2/3, in page 7 of the report. Now, the nexus. So, but if you want to open this thing and now start giving views afresh, that is where the problem is. The gender question is in the report.
All right. Of course, the conversation continues. Please read your report and get what it provides for. Then you can engage on further conversations. So much feedback coming from different viewers across the country, including on Twitter. And the only way many Kenyans can access the document, that is the BBI report, is through digital platforms, that is online. Let's avoid any political gatherings or public rallies at this moment of COVID-19. That is according to Engineer Lazaro. I don't know how the referendum coordinating team is intending to do this, but we'll be here to focus on that. Thank you so much, Honorable Waga, and I see you've masked up. That's good. Speaker Beatrice Elachi. And earlier on we had Gladys Bose from Uasin Gishu and Wanjeri Nderu, a communications consultant and activist, joining the conversation. Thank you for your time. We'll do this some other time. Up next is Comedy Tuesday. No, actually today we are focusing on the content creators, Kabi wa Jesus with Willis Raburu after the break.